Hello and welcome back to the Scoutcast. What I can really do with right now as a non-Antonio owner is spend the next hour or so with two FPL managers who own Antonio. Anyway, my name is Antonio Less Joe.
My name's Antonio.
My name is also Antonio.
Brilliant. Antonio, what's in the show?
Loads to talk about. Mikel Antonio is top of the bill, and then we've got a Southampton striker that lots of people in the community want to talk about, and it is not Shane Long. Spoiler alert. We're playing Pep Roulette again. So Man City top of the, not top of the agenda, but on the agenda, like they will be every week, I think, till the end of the season. Also, free hitters. I think a lot of people are overlooking at free hitting this week or in Gameweek 38. So we're going to talk about what it could mean if you go for it this week, who to target. Chelsea are playing down and out Norwich, and Pep is set to play the B team potentially. And then we've got the usual clean sheets, differential picks from you, Joe, this time, transfer plans, captaincy, and potential chip plans as well.
So here's the bit I've been really looking forward to without Antonio. Just to say the remaining games are going Manchester United and Southampton tonight. So it's been recorded before that. But let's have a look, see how we've been getting on let's have a look. Hello. You've got a couple of players that have done quite well this week. I noticed Sterling captain and Antonio is in there. 88 points in the 8,935th best score out of 7 million this week. Okay, it's gone well then.
I'll try not to be too smug, but I mean it's taken 35 weeks for me to finally have a properly decent game week. But when it arrived in style. It was, I mean, I've been kind of. I mean, Joe, you were mentioned Antonio a few weeks ago. His stats have been great. We've mentioned him on lots of different things. I put him in my article I wrote on the site. He was obviously a good pick for this Norwich game and the Watford game coming, but I don't think anyone expected him to get four goals against Norwich. So it was absolutely incredible to watch that game, and then for that to happen, and then for my captain to get a hat trick as well. I mean, the most incredible hat trick. The final goal for that hat trick. I mean, the ball just
the jam on that,
bouncing off his head. I mean, it was awful for Brighton, but we didn't deserve anything because the team setup was completely wrong. I knew as soon as I saw the team and Lamptey was out and Mope wasn't starting, and Sterling was, I thought this could be an absolute batter we're going to get, and it was deserved because Brighton were terrible, City were great. Then that's what happens. But yeah, I mean, you look at the rest of my team, there's nothing that special that's happened. Bear in mind, I took out Son and Jimenez, who got 23 points between them, and the players I bought in got 31. So, to get more points than 23 from the two players, any other week, that would be a complete disaster. But it somehow works out this week. So yeah, really happy.
It shows what we were talking about last week, about just the amount of choice there is at the moment, especially in midfield. And Antonio, player we've been touting, and have we all got a room for him? Well, some of us did, but some of us didn't. But then you've just explained the kind of players you've got to remove are the ones actually doing well as well. So you've got.
Well, luckily, I had Son because I watched that game, and he was so bad, stuck out on the wing. That I just getting rid of him was just such an easy decision.
I mean, I think I put up a tweet afterwards. I was trying to recall the great single game week player scores: Defoe, Berbatov. Amongst them, Lampard, obviously. I mean, you're going to remember these 20. I mean, you're going to remember the Antonio week for years, and that's
it's like the Tadic week. Remember when Tadic got 21 points against
game week?
I can't remember who it's against now, but
it was Sunderland. It was Sunderland, and it was game week 8. That's how much you remember these things when you own them.
I just remember the points. I don't remember the details. But Tadic and Antonio, legends to me now.
Yeah, legend. Okay, what I can really do with now is another team in front of me here with Antonio. So looking at your team, Andy, not as great as 88, but I'm pretty happy with 67 considering the average is 32 at the moment. You've got Antonio as well. You've got captain. You've got your captain to play tonight.
That's what I mean. If he gets a hat trick as well tonight, I'll be on at 88 as well, won't I? I'm more.
Okay. Well, you've got Martial, and I noticed you've got Maguire. So Fernandez assist, Maguire goal. Who knows? Could be joining the 100 club. So you got Jesus as well. I noticed there. Mahrez, Jimenez ticking along, but obviously Foster's brilliant. He got as we all knew he would. Those three saves, 1 extra point, brilliant. That's the story of the game week. But Jesus as well, 14. Do you want to just tell us a bit about your players there, particularly Jesus?
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't even mad at Foster this week. He got the same as Pope, and everyone else did so well. There was no need to even worry about him. He's just forgotten about now. I don't have to play him for the rest of the season. I'm done with worrying about him. Jesus, yeah, that sets us up nicely for next week. The player that as said was terrible, and he will be going nowhere near. So it'll be interesting to see here thoughts later after an 8-pointer and a 14-pointer. I mean, what's not to like?
Jam.
He's the Man City striker who's in a great team that scores loads of goals. So there's not much to dislike about him. I think a lot of people are starting to come around to him now. And he could have had more. He hit the bar in that game. There was a header from, I think it was about 6 yards out that he missed. A lot of people will say that's what he does. He misses chances, but he also puts them away as well. So in the right place at the right time, nice little tap in at the back post, which are worth exactly the same points as a 30-yarder. So absolutely loving Jesus. Antonio was incredible. Like if anyone watched that Norwich game, I was on Instagram and I was saying to Az, like, are you watching? There's honestly, even when he had the hat trick, I said there's still more points in this. He should have already had more before the hat trick.
We wanted 5, didn't we?
Yeah, I wanted 5. And if it was realistic as well, that game was going like everything just dropped for him. Norwich were awful. Souček could have scored. I don't know how Bowen didn't get any points either. Like Norwich were just terrible. And look, 4 goals massively lucky, but I think getting 1 or 2 from Antonio in that game was fair game. Really, he's been looking really good. And Norwich is a great fixture. So yeah, I've still got my captaincy to come, although I've just literally seen a quote from Solskjaer. I can't really say at the moment if everyone is 100% fit. There's a little bit of wear and tear when you play that many games. So be interested to see the lineup later, although I'm fully expecting exactly the same 11. So yeah, it's a good week so far.
Yeah, it's going well. Okay, well, here's for those who are bored so far. here's what a real team looks like this week. Bang on average, 31, 32 average. I've got Fernandes captain and Greenwood to go. What have I? I got Vardy in, and so I'm pleased he's done well. Really, I said last week I was going for a sort of golden boot chasing theme. So I've also got my eye on Danny Ings, and that's why I kept Salah as well. Salah was interesting. He could have scored a lot, and his teammates were certainly setting up. It just was not to be. Nick Pope annoyingly getting in the way.
We got away with that.
He got away with that.
Non-Liverpool owners got away with it.
Nice clean sheet from Bolly, as per usual. Mahrez got me an assist, got me 6 points. And I almost had a bonus point from Fernandes with a Z on the bench. It's been that kind of week, really. So that's what a sort of normal team looks like. And I've just got a few more things to add. Not about my team, but just about the game week so far. Because I think it's been a really unusual game week. It's been a really polarising game week, where an unfeasible number of differentials have been scoring well. Meanwhile, the well-known players haven't. So if you have those differentials, I'm basically talking Sterling, to a lesser extent as a differential, definitely Antonio, not very well owned at all, and the likes of Jesus. Great, you'll see me ahead. If you don't own them, it's basically as you were. You're hardly going to get anything. But it's quite a good week to have a bad score so far. So one thing that happened with me is I was watching the West Ham game, and Antonio's racking up all the points. I was saying, oh god, this is going to be terrible for me. And because I had Foster playing as well, I got 3 points. I came out of that section of the game week with a green arrow. So, and then I looked and I realised that hardly anyone owns him. In fact, I think it was you two and David are the only people I know in FPL, and no one. So anyway, obviously it would be great. It's one of those weeks where you, if you own them, you're going to do really well. If you don't, it's not so bad. But having said that, I wish I did. Hey, there was a really interesting tweet that was put up by El Stato earlier today, just to showcase this. He put up 10 of the 11 top point scorers in Game Week 35 so far have ownerships under 7%. It's basically Sterling is your outlier here. He's 17.7. He's still quite a differential within the top 10k and top 100k. But yeah, we're talking the likes of Antonio, 26 points. Troy Deeney, 13, 1.8% owned. McGoldrick finally scored, and he scored twice. You wait a lifetime for McGoldrick to score, and then he scores twice in the same game week. 0.2% owned, 13 points. Trezeguet, not the Trezeguet, the Villa Trezeguet, even he scored 13 points. Fredericks, McBurney, Diop, Solanke. I mean, this is a list. If you've got 2 or 3 of these, great. And if you haven't, I don't think I've got any of them. So there you go. As we have some rough with the smooths as well. Do you want to let us know about them?
Yeah, well, there's quite a few. It's quite a polarizing week. This, I think people have either had fantastic weeks or quite rough weeks. Obviously, it's a bit difficult to really do the rough with the smooths when there's still a game like Man U to go, because so many people have got captains and players sort of left in that. So I haven't got too many. But if there's some interesting stories coming out, and there's just two that I want to mention. I mean, one is Baz Bestos, who he's got 97 points. And 78 of those are from Antonio because he triple captained him.
Wow. He's always going to remember this week.
I mean, 78 points from one player. I mean, I've got a good score with 88 and he's got 78 from one.
That's dreamland, proper dreamland.
Yeah, that there's you can't really mention any others. But anyone that triple captained. I mean, have you seen the highest point scorer of the week hasn't made a single transfer all season? But this week he triple captained Antonio. I mean, weird things happen.
That's weird.
In this game. He's ranked 7.2 million in the world, but still, it's a great shout.
7.3 last week, so
yeah.
Much better now.
And just a rough I want to mention. Obviously, FPL Rockstar legend, Rockstar in the community. Just a shout out to him because he was he was helping people out on Twitter and actually missed the deadline. And was going to change the captaincy to Fernandez, but missed the deadline because he was helping people, and it got stuck on Salah. So he tweeted about a minute after the deadline, "Oh no, sort of who's my captain on? I don't think I changed it in time, and got a blank from Salah." So just a shout out to him because I feel so sorry for him because all he does is try and help people.
Oh, but I know, yeah, it's one of those weeks, isn't it? Yeah, good, well done, all those with Antonio, especially triple captain Antonio, a minority, but a minority who are going to remember this for some time to come. Some people, obviously, mental health can get affected by playing FPL sometimes, and you can look at Twitter and things, and it looks like everyone owns Antonio, but they don't really. Some people do. But it's not that way. So, but the best thing I like to do when you've had a bad or an average week is move on and have a think about the next game week, and that's what we're going to start doing now. So we're looking at Gameweek 36, and in particular, there's a player that a lot of people are eyeing up because he has got very great fixtures to come. It's Danny Ings. Looks like a great striker to bring in, especially as he faces Brighton, who just shipped 5 to City. I know it's City. But I, as a Brighton fan, know full well when they're sort of safe or when they're promoted and all these things, they just switch off. I don't know whether it's anything to do with Brighton being a fabulous place. But he plays Bournemouth and then Sheffield United next. He looks like a great player to bring in. Amar asks amongst the community, is it worth getting in Ings? And he proposes for Vardy even, or Jimenez perhaps. And is Ings worth a hit? Will he pay it back over the next 3 weeks? FPL Johnson, best strikers for the run-in. The majority seem to be leaning towards Ings, but he's not so sure. What about Jesus, he's thinking? And surely we have to make space for Aubameyang, he's saying. Now, I do know from experience of Aubameyang, getting him in for a really good fixture, and he has a good fixture at the end of the season, can pay off, can turn it on. So Aubameyang's Arsenal's last 2 fixtures are good, and he's going to be going for the Golden Boot. So, yeah, what do we think? Let's go to you first, Andy. Are you Ings? Are you going to be Ingsless? Are you eyeing up, or any other strikers you're thinking of?
Yeah, so I already have Jesus and Jimenez. They're the 2 I own. I was going to do Jimenez to Vardy last week, but it was just a 1 week punt basically. I didn't necessarily want to keep him long term, so I guess that's kind of answering the Vardy question. Plus now the extra the suspension to Soyuncu. I know it's not an attacking thing, but it's going to hurt the team even more. Sheffield United also now are back on my kind of don't target them for goals because they just look so much better with O'Connell back. So that kind of puts me off Vardy a little bit as well. So I am looking at Ings. If I didn't have Jesus, though, I think he would probably be my number 1 target outside of maybe Greenwood. But at this point, I feel like most people have already got their 3 Man United players locked in. If they haven't, they should have done. But yeah, so I think Jesus is probably my number 1, but I already own him. So I am looking at getting in Danny Ings. Yeah, there's an interesting article actually by so far on Fantasy Football Scout, which went out today, I think, or yesterday, about rest periods. And for Game Week 36 and 37, Southampton actually have the worst amount of time in between games, which could hurt Ings. The only thing I would say counter to that is Hasenhüttl's been quite open about when players are going to be rotating and stuff, and there's not really been a mention about that from Ings. Obviously, we still got to wait for tonight's games to go and see kind of what his minutes get managed like. And he has mentioned he's going to play in all 6 of those games because of the golden boot and stuff. So I still think it's fine, but it's worth noting they do have the shortest rest periods out of all the teams for Gameweek 36 and 37. The only thing is after that, there's a huge rest until 38 in relation to what we've had so far. So yeah, I'm looking at Danny Ings, 3 great fixtures, going for the golden boot. I think outside of kind of United, City and Liverpool, the obvious teams, Southampton are one of the best teams since the restart and how they've played so far. So yeah, I'm going for him. I don't really see a problem. I think worrying about injuries and rest periods, like he's looked a different player this year. How many games has he played? How many minutes has he played? Yeah. And if you watch him since he came back, he's pressing from the front for 90 minutes. He's a different player now. You shouldn't worry about what happened before.
I think those injury tag is just gone now. It has to be gone.
Yeah, exactly.
And the other thing is, now I have owned Ings once this season, and it coincided with a barren spell for him. It was a bit before lockdown, and he just could not score. But what was going on there was Redmond wasn't playing, and when Redmond wasn't playing, suddenly that creativity in midfield was gone. So Ings was sort of fulfilling some of that creative role. He was having a different role in the team, and that role was not as goal-alicious as we know he can be. So what I'm hoping for, I've got my eye on Danny Ings, is that with Nathan Redmond there, that creativity there, and they're all going to feed their man to get the golden boot. Anyway, that's my hope. What do you think about Danny Ings, but just also the forward lineups in general as we kind of the season peters out?
Yeah, I mean, I think Andy's spot on with everything he said. Really, don't want to repeat him too much because that's pretty much it. I mean, you look at some of the players since lockdowns ended, and I mean, when I saw Sterling in that first game, that was the main reason why I wanted to bring him in, because I thought he just looked so sharp, like a different level. I mean, Salah's looked the same. Salah's looked really good all the way through. So that's why not owning him's hurt. But I mean, one of the standout players so far has definitely been Danny Ings. He's just an absolute machine. He's running around all over the place. He's so involved in all the attacks. Southampton look really, really good and well organised.
He's an amazing centre back as well. Suddenly,
yeah, he's making like goal line clearances. He's great. And I mean, you say about Brighton. Saying that we're kind of safe. We need a win, really. I mean, we are fine. It's 90% sure that we're fine. But like, it was a bad week for us this week with all the results going against. Watford won, Villa won, Bournemouth won, West Ham won. Like, it's not good. And Brighton losing, and the manner in which Brighton lost as well. So I think with Ings rocking up to. With Brighton rocking up to Southampton this week, I think Brighton are going to have to play better and try and get that last win. And it seems like quite a good game to do it. But I'm worried that they won't be able to, because I think Southampton are just looking so good at the moment, which is, I mean, you think about how far they've come since getting absolutely smashed by Leicester, and and you never would have thought you'd be saying that at this point of the season. And the golden boot's an extra bit of incentive. So he's definitely in my kind of ideal 3 forward line. I've got Vardy at the moment. I'm probably going to move Vardy over to Ings at some point. Might not be this week because I might be getting in Andy's mate instead to carry on with Operation Target Bournemouth. Because I mean, the first half of that Leicester game, Bournemouth were all over the place. They lost Ake. I thought, it looked like it was going to be an absolute, annihilation from Leicester, and then they kind of pulled it together. But I do wonder. They can't play like they did in the first half of that game again, and will they be able to sort of carry on with it? I'm not really too sure. They were helped by Soyuncu's sort of minute of madness. So I'm going to carry on with Operation Target Bournemouth, get in Jesus this week maybe, and then maybe move him out again for Ings to target that Bournemouth game. But I think anyone with Ings going into this Brighton game should be pretty confident of a return, because he looks great.
I think he's captainable as well. I mean, I spoke about the golden boot last week. I spoke a bit about it today as well. I'm just not going to waver for that, because it's worked for me in the past. And it's already worked. Vardy got me a return instantly from him there. It worked with Aubameyang targeting him. And it looks fixture form wise Ings time. And this is why I'm keeping Salah as well. I can't believe he's not scoring more, but nevertheless. And so yeah, Vardy I think is keepable, But I also don't. I think if people want Ings, I think Vardy is dumpable because his next three are not as good in terms of fixtures, and you might be looking at maybe a goal a game. And I'm not sure there's going to be mega hauls in those, but you never know. You never know what happens. I had no idea that Bournemouth had a mega haul in them. It so happens they do. But I've got some stats to back up your mate Jesus as well as Ings. Vardy, Greenwood and Giroud all being good options. And we're going to talk a bit about Manchester City in more detail in a minute. But I've had a look at minutes per goal attempt in the box. I find this is quite a good stat if you haven't got equal amount of starts. It kind of eases it out. You can see the pattern of how how close they are to getting a shot on target and shot on goal. But yeah, this minutes per goal attempt in the box, Jesus is top currently since lockdown. Every 21 and a half minutes he peppers in a shot in the box. So yeah, he is the one to get really.
Mostly off target.
Mostly off target, yeah. So he's had 20 shots inside the box. 6 of them are on target.
That's so bad.
14 of them have been off target. So that's what you're dealing with there.
Incoming.
In second place is Giroud, a minutes per goal attempt in the box every 27.8 minutes. And he is a bit more accurate. Just 12 shots inside the box there. And shots on target 8, so most of them are on target. But then you're looking at Ings in a number third, so he's shot in the box every 34 minutes. And then Vardy, and then Greenwood, then Calvert-Lewin is there. And I'm going to take. You can put whatever narrative you want to stats, but my narrative is I don't like Calvert-Lewin at the moment. So I'm going to ignore. I'm going to just jump.
Can't argue with that.
Raul Jimenez as well. Mrs. Jimenez is going to give birth at some point. And he's not impressing me at the moment. He's playing much more creative role. It's a bit like when Danny Ings was without Nathan Redmond. He's suddenly playing. So suddenly Jimenez is playing a role that's sort of setting up others. And as we're seeing, one of Wolves' interesting tactics has been Dendoncker getting forward. And it's happened a couple of times. He's scored a couple of times. So, it's a very good outlet there. So, Jimenez is doing a great job for the team. Not so great for FPL managers, ticking along. Rashford's in the mix as well, and Harry Kane as well. Son and Kane, both up front. Different formation with Spurs. That could be good. We've always seen that's been good for Son. Could be good for Kane as well in the coming weeks. Also, just to mention sad news about Aurier. His Serge Aurier's brother, unfortunately, has died. And so for people who have Aurier as well, I'm not sure whether he would play. I'll be gobsmacked if he does play, but nevertheless, very understandable, sad reasons there, and I'm not sure how his absence may affect the way they play, because Aurier is a good creative outlet on his day. But I just thought I'd mention those stats there just to prove that so much choice, and Ings and Jesus are definitely up there, as is Giroud.
I haven't got the table in front of me, but I'm pretty sure I checked it earlier. If we want to talk about shots on target, Ings has had 5 since the restart. 5 shots on target and scored 4 times.
Yeah.
I mean, come
clinical.
on. He's clinical. Jesus is bad. I get it. Just one thing I'll say really quickly, just because I was looking at it earlier. I feel like a lot of strikers don't have, around that kind of price of Ings, Jimenez, don't have the perfect 3 fixtures to end. Because even Ings has Sheffield United to end, which isn't the greatest fixture, I would say, for goals. Raul Jimenez this week is Burnley, not great. But then Palace and Chelsea are shipping goals. So I don't actually think those 2 fixtures are that bad for Jimenez. I'm not saying he's worth a keep necessarily if you've got Jesus or Ings or Greenwood on your mind. If you had like a different transfer to do, like a midfielder that you want to get instead, I don't think keeping Jimenez is the worst thing in the world, given Crystal Palace and Chelsea next.
That Wolves-Chelsea game looks like an amazing watch.
Chelsea is so bad, I think that could be the one where they go for it.
And it comes down to that game.
Yeah, exactly. So we just don't know. And even like I was looking at McNeil earlier, funnily enough, and then I heard James on Planet FPL talking about Wood for the same reasons. So he has Wolves this week, which is difficult. Obviously, he's back now. He played 64 minutes, I think, in the last game. So Wolves is a pretty poor game. But then from 37 and 38, it's Norwich away and Brighton at home. So if you're not making the move this week, suddenly he could become a rival to Ings potentially next week.
And that's a great chance for me to plug the goals imminent table as well, because Chris Wood is definitely on there. And so I've been pushing him a bit as well on social media. I think it could be Chris Wood time for the ultimate differential. On the face of it, not very exciting move, but you could end up dazzling your mini league rivals by getting Chris Wood in up front, and that would shock and amaze them, shock and awe. That would be.
It would, yeah.
Okay, move on to the next section here. It just says, Andy, let's play Pep Roulette. What's that all about?
Yeah, so Man City, basically, if you take out that Southampton game, they've been absolutely free scoring. They play Bournemouth at home next. I mean, Bournemouth only conceded once in the last 2 fixtures against Spurs and Leicester, but I think a lot of that personally is because Spurs and Leicester just haven't been that good since restart. Rotation is likely. FA Cup semi-final at the weekend, so they're going to play Gameweek 36, and then we'll have to make our decisions for 37 before that FA Cup semi-final is played. Which could be tricky. So it could be injuries, it could be rotation. It's going to be really hard to call. But whoever does start against Bournemouth, absolute hatful on the card, you'd think. And basically, is this the toughest game week for Pep Roulette so far? And as you can imagine, loads of questions like every week for Man City. Jurgen Rodgers, is it too risky to captain a Man City asset this week? Rishi, will Jesus start, given he has started the last 5 and is surely set to start in the FA Cup, he says. FPL Quinto, is it worth switching around Man City assets given the rotation? So using your transfers to switch between them, because a lot of people think the likes of David Silva and Foden will definitely play this week. And then Alangdran, for those 3 hitting in Game Week 36, who are the best 3 to bring in given the rotation? So I'll start with you, Joe.
Okay.
I don't even know where to start. City in general, who have you got? What are your plans? And this risk business, do you think it's too risky to bring in Man City players and captain them this week?
I'm personally not going to captain them because I think there's better options in terms of the risk of rotation and surety of starts. I think Pulisic could be good, better option. Danny Ings, indeed, but also Fernandes. I don't think you can just ignore Fernandes. And the only way to get points from him is to captain him. And that, which sounds weird. It's just the effective ownership so massive. But back to City, what have I got? I'm trying to remember. I've got KDB and Mahrez. So I can get another one, but I'm not sure I want KDB and Mahrez. So I'm not sure which ones I want. And whichever one I get out will no doubt score really well. But this is part of FPL. This is the one where you can do your research. You can analyse Pep's comments and you can look at the stats. And we've got on the screen at the moment the minutes of the players at the moment, where you can see that Mahrez, De Bruyne, Sterling, Jesus are the ones there, and David Silva's not far behind, and the other Silva, Bernardo Silva, and Foden are sort of a bit further behind there, but you can see who the main people are there. So this is the bit where it is luck. This isn't a bit where you can suddenly go, hey look, I got in this City player out of the myriad of options and they happen to score really well this week. Say for example you got Sterling this week. Say you got rid of Sterling for Mahrez or David Silva and then they score a hat-trick as well. That is going to be luck because you're not sure whether they're going to play. The skill is knowing that Sterling's completely on form and is more likely to play than the others. The luck element is, will they actually play? So it has to be an element of guesswork, and this has to be down to the FPL manager, whether your attitude to risk. So looking at those minutes and what Pep has to say, do have a look, listen to them, try and second guess it, but do not beat yourself up if you get it wrong and you see your City players on the bench, because all 3 City players you have could all be benched, they could all play, you just do not know. For me, I think KDB is indispensable because he's on penalties. And I think Man City, the way they attack, I think you want the guy who's on penalties. Mahrez, I'm not sure he's going to play this weekend. He's ticking along nicely, and I think I do want him. But the way my team is set up, the move I'm seriously considering is Mahrez out for David Silva and captaining him. Because I think out of all City assets, I think David Silva is the one that is going to play.
I was not expecting that.
Yeah, me neither.
I was not expecting that.
I know, I've shocked you. But this isn't, to me, that is not a maverick move. Because David Silva...
You said there's better options 2 seconds ago. Now you're captaining David Silva.
I said better options than the City players I've got. KDB, for example, or Sterling or Jesus. I don't know whether any are going to play. But David Silva sat out the last one. He could, I just think he's nearing the end of his career, and I know there's no crowd, but I think the last 2 home games are tailor-made for him. I think game week 38. This is why he's a good player to get in, because I can't believe he's not going to play in the last league game week 38. What happens if they get a penalty? Then will David Silva take it? Yeah, and there's all sorts of elements. There's partly the romantic football fan in me, and you just want to David Silva's just a player you want. So I do think that there is a danger there that Mahrez comes on in the last 30 minutes, scores a hat-trick, and David Silva does nothing. But I think David Silva is a really good option this week, and looking at the minutes. So, yeah, it's a long way of saying I don't know, but take a risk if you think so, and take a calculated risk. But for me, I think David Silva's good. I think he's good to play this one. And Foden, yeah, is probably will start this one, but is he good for the next 3? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I personally have gone off Foden a little bit. It doesn't seem to be being used as much as the rest, but that could change. I think with David Silva, you're absolutely right. It does seem like he's going to start. And I think he's probably got the legs to start the FA Cup if they need him as well. And then, perfect scenario, he gets rested for Watford away and then plays Norwich at home. And I agree, that's his last league game.
He's definitely playing that game.
I don't necessarily agree about the penalty, mostly because he just doesn't seem like a kind of ego-driven player that would care about whether he scores.
I think it's more the way the team treat him rather than the way he projects himself. They treat him, understandably, as this magical creature that they happen to have had all these years. But he's just David the bloke, isn't he?
Exactly.
But I think I think they will hand it to him.
Yeah, no, they might do. Yeah, okay, I'll come to my thoughts in a sec because I want to hear Az tell us why Jesus is such a good option first. So, what's your thinking of Man City with all these questions we've had?
Sorry, then you're going to talk about Harry Kane, right, and how great he is again, yeah?
No. I got Jesus in instead.
Yeah, well, there's two different questions, isn't there? There's one around the perfect team for this week, bearing in mind they've got the FA Cup game coming up, and there's one about what do you do with your players going forward for the next 3. So going forward for the next 3, I think the best option is just to get in the 3 players from Man City who think are going to score the most points. It sounds really simple. I think those 3 players are De Bruyne, Sterling, and Jesus. So they're the 3 that I'm going to get. And we've seen already that if one of them doesn't start, they're all sort of playing at least 30 minutes. Either they're playing 60 and coming off, or they're playing 30 off the bench. And all of those players are capable of scoring big in any minutes they play. So Sterling got 10 points the other week. He was only on the pitch for about 25 minutes or something. And then when he started, he got 58 minutes and didn't do anything. So it's all a bit kind of up in the air. So I'm with how good the fixtures are for City, I'm perfectly happy to rock with those 3. They're a lot of money, but there's going to be some more big wins, I think, in those 3 games. When it comes to this week, though, I think Joe's spot on. I think David Silva looks really good pick because I think he's definitely going to play. I think Foden, I would be absolutely amazed if Foden didn't start this game. So if it in a straight up pick between De Bruyne and Foden this week, if I was free hitting, I'd go for Foden because I think he's definitely going to start. And if he does end up playing on the wing again, I mean, he could have had a massive haul the other week if it wasn't just really poor finishing. So if he starts in that attacking position again, I think he could get some points. And I mean, realistically, one of Jesus or Sterling has to start because it's either going to be Sterling in the false 9 up front or it's going to be Andy's mate. So, I think if it was me and I was free hitting, I would probably go with Sterling, Jesus, and Foden for this game. And the free hit is a possibility for me. You've got the security to start with Foden, which I'm pretty sure on, or you could have David Silva if you thought he was going to do well, and then you're kind of, spreading the risk around with those 2. And if they both start, fantastic. But pretty much certainty one of them will start, unless he does actually put Gundogan up front, which surely he's not going to do.
I can't believe that.
No.
De Bruyne has done it well. I think De Bruyne did it at Real Madrid, so there is a chance he could do it. But yeah, I agree. It's probably going to be Sterling or Jesus, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, on Jesus, I mean, he's not good. I stand by the fact I don't think he is a top player. He is not a City level player. I know he's been having chances. I know but I mean, you could stick Chris Wood in the Man City team.
That's the point.
But that is the
playing
point.
FPL, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. That is the point. I think when you've got a player like Jesus, who is the only fit striker there, and the team are creating chances, and he's getting tap-ins, and I mean the 2 assists. I mean, oh my God! I mean, come on, a tap-in and those 2 assists and 13 points. I mean, it just shows though
14.
that Yeah, it's the kind of player though that you want in your team. You want a player who gets jammy assists, gets tap-in goals, because they all count the same, as Andy said. So I have warmed to him as an FPL option, but I would be amazed if Pep actually thinks he's Aguero replacement level, because he's just not good enough. I don't think.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, on Jesus, because a few people are still like not sure about. I mean, the question about is it risky to bring him in? I mean, if you're worried about risk still, Man City, you're never going to bring him in. There is a risk they don't start. There's a risk they will. We just don't know. Like it's already been said by these two. So, if you're really worried about whether they start or not, you're never going to get a Man City player for this season or as long as Pep is at the team, at the club, pretty much. On Jesus specifically, like his minutes. He's only played 63 and 60 the last two league games. It was 90 before them. Then it was only 57, 35, 90 in the FA Cup, 45 against Burnley. So it's not like he's been flogged completely. So I think there is a chance that he starts again. And I looked up a few stats around him as well. This year, expected goal involvement for the whole season, if you take out strikers like Surridge at Bournemouth and Igalo at Man United, because they haven't played very much, the highest expected goal involvement, so that's expected assists or expected goals for the whole season, is Aguero, 1.01 for every 90 minutes he plays. So basically a return for every 90 minutes he plays. Second is Jesus, 0.9, because he plays for Man City. And his returns are just ridiculous.
Iheanacho had the same whenever he played for Man City. He would come on off the bench.
Perfect example.
Basically, whoever plays up front for City will get points because it's City, yeah.
His minutes for returns in his whole City career is 59 minutes the first season, 83 the next, 101 last season, 88 this season. I just think there's nothing to dislike about him. So he would be on my list, free hitting or otherwise going forward. I like David Silva this week just because I think you're pretty much guaranteed he starts. I think I'd go Sterling, Silva and Jesus, but Foden's an option too. It's impossible to pick, isn't it? You think Foden's going to play, so he's probably going to play left or right, which means one of Sterling or Mahrez misses out. You can frame it either way. Sterling got his rest recently. Mahrez has played a few games in a row, but then Pep has said that both of them are fully fit, and kind of the fact that they've actually.
Sorry,
go on.
I was going to say the thing with Jesus as well is, I mean, if you think that he's their only fit striker, one of the reasons his minutes have been matched so much is probably to keep him safe for games like Arsenal and the Champions League coming back and things like that. So, yeah, it also adds a whole new dimension to, isn't it? Because if he gets injured and if he's out for the season, they're going to have to play with Gundogan up front or Sterling.
Yeah. But at the same time, Pep has said numerous times match rhythm is a thing. And so actually the players that have played the most might actually be more likely to get a start because they're more, match fit. They've got match rhythm, whatever you say. They might go off after 50, 60 minutes. But by that point, Man City are 4-0 up. So it doesn't really matter. Just one last thing, because I know there's some other questions as well. Is it worth switching around Man City assets? So I'm still considering, I know it feels like I've missed the boat, but I'm still considering De Bruyne to Sterling simply because I'm chasing an ownership, like top 10k ownership, De Bruyne is 97%. Like he's owned by virtually everyone in the top 10k. Sterling's only 17. Now that's only up till game week 35, so that will increase for this week. Jesus is only 7.29. David Silva's 0.44. So it's incredible. But what I will say is, last kind of note on Man City, Kevin De Bruyne, Jesus and Mahrez have all been unlucky not to get more points in the last few weeks. Now, maybe unlucky is a bit too much with Jesus. He's got 22 points, but he could have had more. De Bruyne definitely could have had more, and so could Mahrez. So I just think you kind of pick three and stick with them. You could use chances on it, but there's only a few game weeks left. I think there's probably, for me, there's other moves I can make. All right.
You're just going to get burned when you make a move and the player you bought out starts and the one you bought in is on the bench.
Unless you did De Bruyne to Sterling captain, which loads of people did this week. But it's just 1 week. But yeah, I think you can use your transfers to do that. But yeah, it's impossible to pick. Every time someone asks me who's going to start, I just shrug my shoulders. I do not know.
We don't know. And no one should blame anyone for saying, oh, but you said so-and-so would start. We don't know. No one knows, apart from Pep. And so, you're just going to have to guess. This is the game you're playing with City. You're playing the game who's going to score the most, and you're playing the who's going to actually get on the pitch the most. And, that's the game you're playing. It's an extra dimension to FPL that's been created through Pep Roulette. As you noted that you could free hit this week, and we do have a lot of questions about that really, because quite a few have got their free hit left. So yeah, Az, do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, it was always on my plan to free hit this week, mostly because there's three teams with absolutely sensational fixtures in Chelsea v Norwich, Man City v Bournemouth, and United v Palace, who have conceded the most goals of all teams since the restart. So, you get 3 players each from those, that's 9, and then grab an Ings and a goalkeeper, and then you've got your 11 sorted. So it seemed quite attractive. The game week 38 is a bit of a lottery. If you look at the week after this, there's some really tricky fixtures. It's quite hard to know who to turn to. So I think it is a very feasible strategy for people who are considering it. So the questions we had, meet the manager interviewee Pete Beswick asked to free hit or not to free hit. Ake out for Bournemouth, so even more appealing for the City boys. And Chelsea v Norwich. Ed Main says a free hit looks great this week due to FA Cup rotation, so you can take out the players you think are going to miss out. So, we might have Chelsea lineup coming out just before the deadline. We might, you might have a feeling about players like Foden and Silva and want to bring them in for the big names, well, the bigger names. Esther Russa says, is Giroud a good 1 week punt? So if he's in the lineup, do you think he can do some damage against Norwich? Billy No Mate, Pulisic looks good. Can we captain him? Do we trust him for that? And FPL Dan says, who are the best Chelsea assets for free hitters? I like Billy No Mate's question because I've got Pulisic captain in my bus team at the moment, just because it's Norwich and they look absolutely dreadful. And I mean, that Sheffield United game for Chelsea, Lampard after that game was absolutely livid. I would be amazed if there isn't a reaction from Chelsea off the back of that game. It'll be interesting to see who plays because they've got the FA Cup semi-final at the weekend, but the priority has to be a big win against Norwich to kind of just restore some belief that they can get into the top 4. For some of the players who performed particularly badly in that Sheffield United game, to show that they've got a future at the club as well. So I think players like, if we get wind that players like Abraham are starting, or some of the more fringe players, then they might be good options. But really, if they should be putting out a full strength side in that game. And I think Pulisic looks great because he's one of those players who since the restart has looked so strong. So he's got my armband at the moment. If I was free hitting, I'd definitely be getting 3 Chelsea players. I'd be looking at probably Giroud, Pulisic, and then a defender. I'm really hoping that Alonso starts, because if Alonso starts, he's straight in to my squad. Anyway, sorry, that's my thoughts on Chelsea. Let's come to you, Andy. What do you think about free hitting this week?
Yeah, I like it. It's similar to what I said last week. I just think you've got to be careful. You don't try and be so different. You've got rid of players that also have good fixtures that you probably already own. Like people saying, I want a free hit because City are playing Bournemouth. Well, you probably want 3 City players for the rest of the season anyway, not just for this week. The only ideal for this week is, of course, you can try and second guess the rotation, which we've already talked about. So fixture-wise, it probably does look the best. Like Man United versus Palace, like you've kind of just alluded to there, on paper, usually that isn't, maybe I would take out a Man United player or 2, but the way Crystal Palace are playing right now, and the funny thing is, I think they're conceding so many goals because they are trying to play. They're not just sitting back and trying to defend. They are missing a few players as well, which isn't helping. Against Chelsea, they kind of tried to take it to them. Nearly worked out for them. If they do that against Man United, they will get destroyed. So maybe they will try and sit back a bit in that one. I don't know. But I would still want Man United players. I want 3 City for the rest of the season anyway. So I think this is the problem you're going to have. Like, people that are looking to free hit want to do it in a week where something like really crazy and exciting is going to happen. But you're going to want 3 Man United players for the rest of the season. You're going to want 3 City. Whether you do it this week or 38, that's probably not going to change too much. The only thing I would say about 38 is Man United are playing Leicester, which might be a bit tougher. But again, the way Leicester are playing, you probably still want 3 anyway. So I don't know. I don't really have anything against this week. I think it's this week or 38, really. I would just try and, I don't know, almost like get out of your head about your target because of Man City players, because you are going to want them anyway. And in terms of Chelsea, would I triple up? I mean, Chelsea's defence is so bad. I could see Pukki scoring a goal, even though they're down and out. But I guess, I mean, the allure of Alonso, if he starts, is huge. And obviously the fact that you get early team news is massive as well. And we should say as well, Man City are now eligible for the Champions League. They're not going to get banned. So top 4 is now hugely important because 5th won't get that Champions League spot anymore. So yeah, Pulisic and Willian look good. I mean, we should just quickly touch on those two players. Like, would you bring in Pulisic just for this week, bearing in mind he has Liverpool and Wolves out? If we're not talking free hits, a lot of people will be considering that too, just while we're talking Chelsea.
Ask Joe. One fixture punt on Aubameyang went very well, didn't it?
Yeah,
what do you think about Pulisic for a one week?
I think the way the Liverpool defence is, I'll be happy with Pulisic for the duration. But I've got Pulisic, and I think he's great for this week, and I think he's great for the duration, and I think doubling up is good. What I like about this, if I don't have a free hit, and if I could turn back time, I would have used my bench. I would have utilised in game week 30 the unlimited transfers and gone for a bench boost, because ultimately a bench boost is really good in a double game week. It's less effective in a single game week, whereas a single game week with a free hit, usually in a blank game week, but you can use a free hit really effectively in a single game week. For example, last week some people free hitted. Maybe they brought Antonio in. Maybe they got in and captain Sterling. These things can happen, and it's all a bit of a lottery. But at the same time, that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to narrow the odds, and I think this is great for double and triple ups you don't necessarily want. Pulisic is great to have for the duration. Pulisic, Giroud, and Willian for the duration, no. But for against Norwich, I would love to have all three of those. Yeah. Or Alonso as one of them as well. I don't want Alonso for the rest of the season. But if he's in the starting lineup, I'd love him against that Norwich team. And there's loads of those triple ups and double ups. And we've seen time and time again, double ups, triple ups. These are the way that you can get advantage on your mini league leaders. And this is what we're getting to at the moment. We're getting to squeaky bum time in those mini leagues.
I think the problem... what we just said, Joe, is exactly what Andy just said. Is that, say you take Pulisic and Willian, get two, right? Then you've also got, say you've got Antonio, so you might be dropping Antonio. He's got a home fixture against Watford. You've then got your two City mids. So if you're thinking Foden, Sterling, De Bruyne, Mahrez, all
that's
of that.
The thing, I wouldn't drop Antonio because he's playing Watford.
No,
because he would be a player I'd bring in on a free hit this week.
Yeah, so my midfield, for example, at the moment. So I'm thinking of free hitting, and I would obviously be looking at someone like Willian or to change my mids around. I haven't got Martial, so Martial playing up front against Crystal Palace looks really good. I mean, I've got Bruno Fernandes, Pulisic, Antonio, De Bruyne, Sterling. Like, there is so much, and this is the biggest problem with the free hit, is there's so much potential for that to go wrong.
Yeah.
If I take out Antonio, De Bruyne, and Sterling, and bring in Silva, Foden, and Willian, there's so much that can happen. It's such a dangerous chip.
You've just described success in FPL. We had Late Riser on last time. What does he do? He takes out these big heavy hitters and transfers them for other heavy hitters based on form and certain fixtures. So, for example, a move this week from Salah out to Sterling was a risky move. It paid off. That's what this free hit is about. Yes, you could end up much worse off, but success in FPL, to get to.
But how do you judge the success of Willian versus Norwich versus Antonio versus Watford? Are you just doing the transfer for the sake of it?
I wouldn't. It was KDB would be the one I would take out because I don't know if he's going to start. And I would take the risk that KDB is not going to start, and I would use those Man City spaces elsewhere, and I would probably have Jesus in, so that KDB out would free up a space for Willian.
So you go Jesus and Sterling, which means you can't then have a second City mid, because then you've got Pulisic, Fernandes, and Willian, and Antonio. So you've only got one City mid then.
This is basically the point I was making.
I don't think a triple up with City is because of these other options. Because we've got the Norwich game, we've got Chelsea against Norwich. There's so many options, so that's what it is. It's all about balancing and trying to get that. But I think Antonio is a great option this week. Good differential.
Sorry, Andy, go on.
This is what I was saying about you don't feel like you have to change your whole team. Like if you've got Antonio, Pulisic, two City mids, and Fernandes already, that's a great midfield. Yeah. For free hit or not, right? So that's fine. Let's say you're happy with them. Don't change them. But you could go for a Giroud punt instead of Danny Ings up front. You could go for Alonso if he starts, Azpilicueta if he starts. Not two players you're probably not going to want for the rest of the season. Yeah. Maybe you just change the defence around a bit. Like, this is a different season now with lockdown and stuff. Like, usually you would just go for the week where you can change everything. When have Man United needed three players from and Man City at the same time? It's very, it's a weird season right now. So I feel like you shouldn't expect to change 11 players with this free hit.
No.
Maybe that'll be different in Game Week 38 because then we know what's happening with relegation. We know what's happening with top four. We know them if there's more injuries and stuff. It might be a bit different. But for this week, there are so many good midfielders that people already have. You don't necessarily need to change all 5 players, I don't think.
Yeah, that is an excellent point. And actually, you think about free hit, you've only got 3 weeks now to use it. So you've got to use it in one of them.
Yeah.
And realistically, if you're happy with your team, you know, how many are you going to make? You're going to have your 3 United. You're going to have your City. You're probably going to keep your Wolves defender. You're probably going to keep Trent. Like, I don't know. It's a tricky one to get right. I mean, 38. You've got the advantage of the team news that you might get before the kickoff. The kickoff happens, which is a benefit.
Made a great point bringing up Giroud, I think, as well, because Giroud is not a player you're going to want, but you're going to perhaps really want him for this game. And then suddenly you've got, so maybe you haven't got room for Willian, but you've got Pulisic. Double him up with Giroud. There's going to be points there, and elsewhere as well. Have a look at defence. If you fancy a Southampton clean sheet, triple up on their defence. Ignore Danny Ings, or get Danny Ings and McCarthy and one of their defenders as well. It's these kinds of things that you might not necessarily do, but there's lots of these potential. There's lots of these potential each week, but I just think this week has those sort of fixtures of good teams, good players, but you might not necessarily want them a long time. And it's all this.
There's loads of potential, but there is loads of potential for it to go wrong. Because, I mean, up front, if you just think about up front, you've got Jesus, you've got Greenwood, you've got Ings, you've got Giroud. You move out Greenwood for Giroud. Greenwood gets a brace against Palace. You move out, like, it's so hard to know who you got, and you're moving out. You're likely to be moving out players who've been doing well for other players who have been doing well and have good. Everyone's got good fixtures. It's really tough.
The free hit chip basically is just not as strong as it sometimes is. I don't think. Like we've talked before about worrying about people holding free hit. What are they going to do to my rank? I got to be honest. I'm not worried at all, to be honest, because I think there's so much room for it to go wrong, and people are going to take out players they actually want because they want to be different. But really quickly, I just want to touch on Pulisic because I know people love stats on this show. So I pulled some from the members area just to play a few mind games with people with Pulisic. So I don't have him. So since the restart, there are 31 players with better expected goal involvement than Pulisic. That's out of all players, forwards and mids. And there's 16 better with expected goals as well. And also, Willian, I know we've talked about Willian before on this, but there is an argument to go for him instead, I think. Now, I know people say eye test, Pulisic looks so much better than Willian on the eye test. I'm not sure that's completely true. Maybe from a slight goal threat perspective. He's only had 3 more shots than Willian in the box since restart. He's created 10 less chances than Willian. Willian's on penalties. I know Jorginho was back, but he was rubbish. So he might be straight back out of the team.
So was Willian, to be fair. An awful game against Sheffield United.
Pulisic got brought off after 60-odd minutes. Now, was that to rest him, or was that because
Lampard knew it was done? Lampard knew at that stage they'd lost that game, I reckon.
You don't reckon they kept Willian on because they thought he was the one that could do something in that?
I think he just given up with it. He knew Pulisic needed a rest. He's played every minute pretty much since the restart. They were 2-0 down, I think, at that point. And it was his interview at the end where he said, "I could only hear one team shouting. It was only the Sheffield United players that were shouting. My boys were quiet." I don't know.
Yeah, I will say there's some great counter arguments in the chat. He's playing Norwich. I will fully agree. That is a great counter argument. How many of those players I mentioned have played Norwich? There's 31 players.
We don't like team leaks. It's not, but some of them are there, and there are some trusted ones. And the point is, this is the early kickoff. We might get a team leak, and if you're getting that,
we don't like team leaks, don't we?
Well, because you don't know.
It's a debate to be had.
It's a debate to be had. Are they real? Can you trust them all? So you've got all these things going through your mind. It's like. But nevertheless, it would be much easier if we could make changes after the teams have been revealed, like in the Sky game. But that's also for another debate. But I think with that one, there's a chance we will know whether Pulisic, Willian, Giroud, Alonso, whether they're playing or not. And if we do know, if you're free hitting... It's
got to be full strength.
Yeah.
It's got to be a full strength.
You would imagine.
Surely.
So. I was just going to say, because I'm in a different position, because I've still got my bench boost left. And I could play it here. Aurier's availability might scupper that. But essentially, my bench boost would be Southampton. And it would have to be Danny Ings. And people go, yeah, you put Danny Ings on your bench boost. That's not really your bench boost. But yeah, who do I drop for Danny Ings? Greenwood, perhaps? Or Vardy? It just goes on like that. There's And I quite like the thing of having a Southampton themed bench as well. But I'm not sure. I might not use it. But there is an option. I think for the bench boost, because you're looking at cheaper players, I think there are options. Cheaper players or value players with Chelsea, but definitely Southampton I think are looking really good here. My team and your team has Brighton completely hammering them, which would be quite nice, but not nice for FPL.
Yeah, it would be nice. Can't see it happening.
I think we should move on. I think it's a great time to free hit, but obviously there is a debate to be had, and it's going to depend on your own teams. And as both of you pointed out, Andy in particular, if you remove players that are going to score really good players, you've just got to accept that risk if you're going to do that. Andy, let's move on to clean sheets. Who have got the best clean sheets over the next the final few game weeks now? Final 3.
Yeah, I'll go through this fairly quick. I think that not much has changed since last week, really. One thing I will say, I think there's a lot of teams with good fixtures defensively where we already own players, which kind of just solidifies the point of use your transfers on attack. Might not be the same for everyone, but I think a lot of these teams are already in a lot of our FPL teams. So Everton at top, with Aston Villa at home, Sheffield United away, and Bournemouth at home. So on paper, 3 extremely good fixtures for clean sheets. And I was saying last week, I think it was, that they have been looking quite good defensively and posted some good stats, and then they got battered by Wolves. So I'm not quite sure what to make of them. But I think Luka Dean was decent and could have, from an attacking sense, could have almost scored in that game. And I still think those 3 fixtures are potentially good defensive options. And if I was going to make a defensive transfer this week, I still think I would probably bring him in. I think I would just pay the money for him because I've got plenty, like most people have. Man City obviously still there, Bournemouth, Watford, Norwich, but again, just rotation. Like, we know rotation for the attackers, but we can take that because they still get points. I think for defenders, it's just not worth a spot in our team personally. Southampton, really good fixtures, which we talked about. Brighton at home, Bournemouth away, and Sheffield United at home, sorry. So those of us with McCarthy on our benches who've had to play Foster the last few weeks are overjoyed that they can now play McCarthy instead. But potentially Jack Stevens. Times. Yeah, Jack Stevens maybe. Bertrand if you wanted a bit of a punt, and maybe you're on free hit this week like Joe said. And Brighton as well. Maybe it's time for Lewis Dunk again. Southampton away, Newcastle at home, Burnley away. And then it's kind of teams where I think people have already, like Man United, most people have either got a Man United defender or they've got 3 attackers at this point. Their fixtures are really good still. Same with Burnley. A lot of people have got Pope and Taylor. Maybe Tarkowski could be an option now. Wolves at home, I wouldn't be shocked to see them keep a clean sheet there. Norwich away and Brighton at home as well. So there's loads of good fixtures, loads of good teams to target. But I do think a lot of people already have these assets, apart from maybe Everton.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's interesting there. Looking at Arsenal as well, coming up as well. Martinez, those who have the mighty Foster like me, Watford have just... their ability to win a clean sheet is gone, but also the fixtures are completely going to dry up. They've got Antonio against them next. But it just shows that Martinez at Arsenal could be a great option there with Villa and Watford. And obviously Sheffield United as well, I still think are good options there. So, I mean, I've got rid of O'Connell because he was injured for a while. But, I do sort of wish I had a Sheffield United defender now. They're quite handy.
I've actually still got Egan. He basically gets returns, clean sheets or otherwise, every single week. Yeah. So probably he's the one to get. Yeah,
I mean, in the bench league, he is absolute tops. So moving on to differentials. We've had a lot of notable successes. Antonio, Jesus as well. These are proving very fruitful. We've had Foden too, so this could be Foden's week. Bowen, Nketiah. So Bowen's been okay. Nketiah's been awful. And Richie as well has been less than successful. But so it's my turn again. And I'm going to pick David Silva because I noticed he's 4.7% owned. And when I checked this morning, he's priced at 7.3. He should be nailed on for Game Week 36. I think Game Week 38. Game Week 37 will be a nice little bonus as well. I do think there's going to be some set piece duties coming his way. But looking at the stats as well, minutes per chances created since lockdown, obviously De Bruyne is top there. But on a chance every 30 minutes is David Silva. There he is there. He's scored twice. He's assisted twice already for 7.3. I think it's a bargain. I think his ownership's really low. I think he's a really great option to get in. I'm around the 60 to 70k mark. I'm not going to get top 10k, but I quite like to get as high as I can, and I'm not going to do that without players like this, low-owned players that could get potential hauls that I think, if they're playing. Also, one recently that he didn't play one of the games, so he didn't come on at all, and I quite like that because benches are okay at the moment. And getting these 1-pointers are not so good for the last 20 minutes. But getting not playing at all, but then your bench person coming on, that's quite good. At the moment for me, that's Calvert-Lewin, but it's soon to be Danny Ings, so I'm quite happy for him to come on. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think, David Silva? Have I cheated a bit getting him?
No, I had Jesus a few weeks ago.
Yeah,
If they're under 5%, like I said earlier, he's 0.44% in the top 10k. There is nothing not to like about him, really.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
I think he's an option not just for a free hit, but someone, if you think he's going to start this game and 38, then that's 2 out of 3 weeks you're going to get. And he doesn't seem to be coming on much, does he? I think he either starts or
doesn't. Yeah,
or
he's
doesn't.
come on a couple of times. I think 2 out of the last 5 he's come on.
But
there is that chance.
He's nicking KDB's creativity as well. So why has KDB only got, KDB's only got 1 assist? Is that right in the last couple? But you look since the lockdown as well. Goals. We're looking David Silva there.
His output diminishes, doesn't it, when Silva's playing with him? I think that was someone's pointed that out. Yeah, I really like him. I mean, 17 points against Newcastle.
Yeah,
big return.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting successes picking these City guys. It feels like cheating at the moment, but some of these are so low owned at the moment. Anyway, let's move on.
Bowen got nothing in a 4-0 win. Yeah. It wasn't Fraser and Wilson, Joe, like you promised me.
No, well, you never know. You never know. That's what you do. That's what City. You're playing a different game. You're playing will they start game, and which of their many players will score one of their many goals, five or 6 goals. Who's going to score and assist them? That's the game you play. Let's move on to game week 36. Our decisions. So I've got 2 free transfers. Bench lad Calvert-Lewin is going to go for Ings. And in order to get him in, I've got to free up a 0.2 somewhere. Or it could end up being 0.3 by the time I do it tomorrow. So I'm seriously considering Mahrez to David Silva. And I think he's a captain candidate. Fernandes is obviously the captain candidate, the main one. David Silva or Pulisic also in the running for me. And I'm also considering possibly bench boosting. But weirdly, I might take a hit to do that, which sort of defeats the object of it. But I'm like 60k at the moment, so I just want a better bench. I'm not sure Aurier is going to be available for understandable reasons. Fernandes with a Z, I'm not sure I want against Spurs, but I don't know. Newcastle at home to Spurs, it's Mourinho. Yeah. I quite fancy him. And obviously the rest of it will be Southampton, so I'll have McCarthy, Stevens and Ings there. And one option, if I thought Aurier was going to play, which I don't think he will, would be Fernandes down to Lamptey. And I think Lamptey at Brighton is a great little enabler for those. You just have a good bench player. He's going to play. He was rested the last game. I think he'll play Southampton. He's an option there. I've got too many options, I think, and it's really annoying, so I won't bore people with the whole thing. But basically, David Silva and Ings are in my thoughts somewhere. So yeah, that's me, captain up in the air. Let's see how Fernandes gets on tonight. Andy, let's have a look at your team. You've got McCarthy in goal playing here, and you've got Sace, Maguire, Alexander-Arnold, Fernandes captain, De Bruyne, Antonio, Mahrez, Martial, Jesus and Jimenez. It's fine. I mean, are you going to make any changes or?
Yeah, I am, because I've got 2 free transfers because I didn't do the Jimenez to Vardy move last week, which I was almost as happy that Jimenez outscored Vardy as I was about Antonio. It's just that was a nice feeling when Vardy only got 7 points. But yeah, I've got 2 free transfers, so I've got to use them. I mean, I can make Maguire to Greenwood switch now for free, which I've put off because I haven't wanted to take a hit to do it. But I just don't feel like that's aggressive enough play at this point. So I'm just going to keep Maguire. I don't think there's necessarily a massive chance that Greenwood hugely outscores Maguire by the end of the season. He might outscore him, but I don't know if it's worth a transfer to switch. So I'm going to keep Maguire. So it's probably going to be Jimenez to Ings, which I guess is not that aggressive given Ings' ownership and loads of people will jump on him. And then I've got 1 free transfer left, and I'm wondering whether to roll it until game week 38. But there's so much potential before then. Do I just get Sterling in for De Bruyne?
So boring, Andy.
Exactly. Do I go Mahrez to David Silva? That's another option. I've toyed with holding on to Antonio for this week, and then next week benching him against Man United and upgrading Nketiah to maybe a Chris Wood or something like that. But ultimately, I think what I'll do is Jimenez to Ings, and I'll wait for that early Chelsea team news, and I might just go Antonio after 26 points straight to Pulisic, because Antonio's last game is good. It's Aston Villa at home, but the one after Watford is Man United away, and Pulisic versus Liverpool away is probably not any worse than that, and Norwich at home is obviously better than Watford at home. So I'm thinking about making that switch if he plays. But it's very hard to take out a player after he's just scored 4 goals for you. But maybe it's the time to jump off. I don't think he's going to get another 4 goals against Watford. But we should say, even before that Norwich game, he's looked really good, and his underlying stats have been really good as well. So I would not be surprised if he gets anything against Watford. But just versus Pulisic against Norwich, I don't know. But definitely Jimenez to Ings. After that, I'll think about the other one. And captaincy, I don't know if I will captain Pulisic, to be honest. I might just stick it on Fernandes again. Let's see what happens tonight. I just think he's been so good. Crystal Palace are awful. Just I keep going what I'm doing. And I should, really quickly, a few weeks ago I said to you when I had a really good rank rise, I didn't do anything crazy. I didn't go massively differential. I just left it boring. And since then, I've tried to do all these crazy things. It's gone really bad until this week where I made no transfers. And it just went good again. So obviously Antonio came in that I got in the week before, but yeah, I don't know about going crazy differential. It's just not the kind of player I am. So probably Jimenez to Ings and then worry about the rest.
I saw a great quote on Twitter, which was playing FPL is like when you're in a lane in traffic and you try and swap, and then the cars in the lane you're in go past you. Then you try and swap again, and then the other cars go past you. It's exactly what it's like. You try and be patient, and you get burnt by, you should have gone aggressive. You try and be aggressive, and you get burnt by, you should have been patient. So it's nice that it paid off for you for once.
So I'm going to try exactly the same now.
I did something weird this week. I've worked out how much I've got from my transfers since lockdown, and I'm up 42 points net from the transfers I've made. So doing transfers, and these are transfers with hits. So it's like, are hits worth it? And the net gain from taking 2 hits to steady the ship has been 42 points, and I think that shows that you can do that to steady the ship. I think if you've got players like, for example, Calvert-Lewin's a good example of that. I think he's he's a player. He's just going to get you 2 points. And I had the likes of Grealish, for example. He's just a 2-point guy. And others like that. And if you spot those types of players, and they're quite well owned, and you can move them out to differentials, that's the thing to do. But my rank at the moment is it's nowhere near the top 10k, and 42 point net gain is not whoop-de-doo time. It's because you got 50 point gain on the average this week. As this is the sort of thing you need to be getting. I need to be getting 42 points every week. And that makes it tough, and it makes it tough for people who are playing the game, mental health wise. They invest so much in it and go, why am I rising up the rankings? Well, it's just really tough at the moment, and just accept that. And it's not tough as in it's something you can't do. It's just one of these things. You've got to second guess pet roulette. We talked about the Chelsea as well. Do you free hit there? You wild card here, then suddenly there's a pandemic. This is I'm going to put an asterisk by this season, and I don't care what anyone says, because this is an asterisk season. Definitely. What are you doing? Gameweek 36.
Yeah, and like you said, Gameweek 30, I was ranked 94k. Yeah. End of Gameweek 34, I was ranked 93k. So 5 weeks of thinking and looking at tables and all this stuff, and I went up 1,000 places. So it was, and then you just get lucky with a 4-goal haul like that. And what am I thinking? Well, I don't really know. I'm looking at my team, and I just think it looks ridiculously strong, and I'm really happy with it. But then I think I've got to use this free hit at some point, and I could do De Bruyne to Foden, because I think Foden is one of the most likely people to start that game, and De Bruyne I'm not sure about. I could take a bit of a punt on Giroud. I could get in Jesus. I could sort my defence out, because that isn't looking too good this week. So I could do it. If Alonso's in the team, he's coming in, definitely. I want Alonso versus Norwich. I can always bench him next week against Liverpool, and I've got Lascelles against Brighton, which is fine. I don't mind playing him. And then the final week of the season, I'd free hit if I didn't do it this week. So, really, I've only got to worry about my players for the next 2 weeks if I don't free hit this week. So that's an option. I could get in Jesus instead of Vardy, if Alonso doesn't play. So that would be what I'd do if I didn't free hit. If I did free hit, it would be quite exciting, but I don't think I'd make too many changes outside of the defence and De Bruyne for Foden and maybe Vardy for Jesus. So I don't know. It's tricky. It's stressful. I don't want this chip anymore. I want it off my back. I'm jealous that neither of you have it because I just think it's going to go.
Like it now. I think it's
going to go wrong.
I do think I mean, my having a bench boost is rubbish because you're forced into moves. I've got to upgrade Foster, or I've got to upgrade Fernandez with a Z. These.
At least you're guaranteed points for it though. You're going to get at least like 4 points. More than you would have done if you didn't use it. Yeah, whereas I could end up like 30 points down if I get it wrong. I don't want to be spending
my time upgrading these blokes. But just for the benefit, before I forget, of those listening on the podcast, you've got De Gea in goal, Alexander-Arnold, Doherty, Aurier, Sterling, De Bruyne, Fernandes, and Pulisic captain, Antonio, and up front Vardy and Greenwood, and then on your bench Martinez, who I think is a great option as a goalie. Even though you have Day, but a great backup. Calvert-Lewin, Justin, who is a really good bench option here, and I think perhaps even better than Calvert-Lewin, and Lascelles. So Justin is up for Leicester, is up against Sheffield United.
Yeah, but he's a great option against Bournemouth, and he ended up being my lowest scoring defender. Got big fat 0.
United just put 3 past Chelsea as well.
Yeah, these are the outliers. But it's tough this season, and I hope we've kind of express that in a way, and I think people who are experiencing the highs and lows of FPL, I hope we've got you covered for Gameweek 36. We're obviously going to be back again probably tomorrow. It's going so fast for Gameweek 37. I think it's later in the week though. We'll be back for the Scoutcast. Just before we go,
can I say one more thing on the free hit just before I go? Just one reason why I'm considering not doing the free hit is because one of the biggest disadvantages of it is you lose that transfer. So say I bring in Jesus this week and I do this team, and then I want him next week. I've then got to use a transfer to bring him in next week, and then I can't get Ings or Aubameyang, or it kind of puts you one step behind as well. So that is why I think saving it for the final day can be quite powerful, because you don't have to worry about your transfers after that, and you can use it sort of before then. So that's one reason why I might wait.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's a big decision to make using these chips. I hope they sort of change the chips a bit next season, but to be honest, if they just carry on, and I won't, I'll forgive them, because it's a tough time, and these developers just get the game out and get it nicely, and that's fine. That'll do me. But remember, everyone, all the stats, season ticker, etc. that we've used here is from the Fantasy Football Scout members area. Please do sign up. Invaluable information there. We've also, if you've enjoyed this episode, please do remember to like it. We do like that. And remember to subscribe as well to keep up to date with our latest videos and podcasts. But in the meantime, it's a goodbye from me.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye all.